and keep watch, those guys have to be
Right.
fueled properly as well.
Talking about different types of fueling for different jobs and different individuals. It reminds me that some guys take more fuel. They're dump trucks. Other guys take less fuel but a higher octane. They're
Yep.
Maseratis. But then you have all those guys in between that everybody can't be the same in a world where uniformity is critical and important. How do you get people to see that, okay, there needs to be a variety whenever possible, there needs to be a variety available and someone there to help them make good choices? How do you get that across in an environment sometimes that's God, just give them some chow.
Sure.
That's sometimes just like, hurry up.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that. Get out of the way.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue because, you know, it's all about personalization, individualization. Between you and me, you're definitely going to be eating more calories. You're going to be ingesting more carbohydrates. I'm not going to be consuming as much protein. That steak in front of you is not going to be the same size if I want to match, nutrition based on your physical capabilities and your performance. And the nutrition is going to be different from the guy that's staring at the computer looking at radars versus the guy who's actually, picking up heavy items, picking up load, and shooting for precision. All of those nutrient needs vary. And this is where our military is leading the way and has become tip of the spear. When you look at other military forces around the world, they're embedding dietitians, specifically sports dietitians, into battalions, into units. The Special Operations Committee has been doing that for over 10 years. And
Yep,
we're
yep.
now finally, as an enterprise, finally starting to embed these assets into smaller areas, smaller pockets, whether it's into the fitness and performance centers, or whether it's putting them on ships, putting them in environments where they're training. And now we're looking and determining where are we matching their training periodization and how are we matching that with the nutrition.
Yeah, the most bang for the buck is exactly what you're talking about, getting it down to the individual unit and having someone in that individual unit, maybe down to the battalion level, that understands and can help coach specifically the individual soldier that may be having a little issue
Mm-hmm.
with understanding how to eat for their performance.
Yeah.
Um, I have and there's all kind. I'm sure your dad can tell you all kind of war stories as well. But there's all kind of stories about that guy that was a good soldier, but they had to chapter him out of the army because he struggled with physical fitness. Well, what he really struggled with more often than not was nutrition because he did the same thing everybody else did. So physically, his body should have been adapting,
Mm-hmm.
but because he was not fueled properly, it didn't. So about that, talk to us a little bit about the adaptation of the body if fueling is correct
Sure.
or incorrect.
Yeah, yeah, we've got both
You know,
sides there, right? I mean, I am, it's sad to say, but the Navy is the fattest branch as we speak, and that's who's paying my bills right now. And
well, we can. I was in the army,
sure.
right? But I was considered heavy in the army. But if you looked at my track record, I graduated I played football in college, and I graduated at 190 pounds. Well, I left the military at 183 pounds.
Okay.
At my lowest in the military, and I kept it around 175
Uh-huh.
pounds. But because vertically I'm challenged, I'm not very
Okay.
tall. They had the outdated height and weight scale that meant absolutely nothing, and it was like you're still overweight. So I'm like, come on. It's, it didn't give it wasn't a problem for my
Right.
career. And I never had a problem with individuals because if, minus injuries and stuff like that, I didn't have issues with a PT test. Physically, I was okay.
Right.
And that come from my athletic background. But if you just looked at me, you know, those that didn't know immediately, went to the you're
Yep.
overweight. I'm like, I'm like, I, sometimes I didn't even respond, but I knew better from my own background. But you don't argue in instances like that. And I understood where they were coming from. If they said something to one person, they had to say something to the other guy.
Right.
So they didn't have the time to look at your build or your background or anything like that. So all respect to the guys that would bring it up, but when you don't know what you don't
Yeah.
know, then that's how we get to
Well,
to the spot where we needed to bring folks in like yourself and the other performance guys that are in the units
yeah,
now.
and it's about time that they realize that BMI is not a good marker.
Never has
Yeah.
been. BMI and height and weight scale, that those two things tell you the least amount of
Yeah.
stuff about anybody's physical abilities.
And the
But
Marines are actually finally looking at different types of equipment to better measure, all those components that would make a Marine physically capable to pass all the components of the PT test.
better than the eye test.
Yes, better than the eye test.
Okay. I feel like I kind of earn the right to throw a little shade at my brother in service and the young ladies and men in service, but I respect them a great deal. I respect everybody that's been through the process. But let's get back to nutrition and um, when you are approaching someone who you suspect may have a problem, how do you do that?
Yeah. So, nutrition is only one component of several of our life factors, right? I mean, if
Right?
we look at what's going on currently today, many of our young junior service members don't even have the adequate, money to be able to buy healthy foods. And that's a problem. So it's not
Right.
just about nutrition. Sometimes life is going on where it's hard for our service members to even adequately eat and even to make it healthy. It may be lack of knowledge. It may be they don't have the budget or the means to, because they're also taking care of, other dependents, a spouse. And just think about our E1, E2, E3 guys and how much they're making. We're talking at this almost at the same level as our national poverty lines. And so, what really is so important to me is that our military members are not, sitting in their car waiting at the food bank, to get food, but they have the means to do it at their commissary at the installation, that they have healthy foods to select from, and that whatever they've got going on in their lives, that they can focus on their job and B, staying physically ready, and that way we can keep them, and retention's a big thing. This is where our resiliency comes in, because unfortunately we know that there's lots of things going on in today's world that mental health is really a big issue. So sometimes the last thing on their plate, no pun intended, is nutrition, is how to eat healthy. So when it comes down to it, what I say to the service member is, what's going on? It may not even be something nutrition related. So, when we can tease out all the other things going on in that service member's life, then maybe we can talk nutrition.
When you take that kind of approach, as you said earlier, it's a holistic approach because there's never one thing. And I've always, having been on the command end of soldiers not having the budget to 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 go shop for themselves or their family, or having been on the knowledge end and watching soldiers, just they didn't know that eating this way was, eating at 12 o'clock at night and then waking up at 5:50, wasn't the best thing that they could do
Yeah.
for their body, or their physical well-being in general. So when we start talking about um, things that connect to nutrition, we talk about psychology, the actual the I think one thing the service has always done is the physical activity part. They've always done
Yeah.
that well.
Yeah.
You know, although sometimes you get tired of the same old test, it was always an appropriate focus, not always well founded, but always well intended.
And that's changing as we speak.
Yes, it's yes, it's better. I hear less and less of the young guys that I talk to. I talk to a bunch of them around here, down here in Texas, but they're saying, "Oh no, we do it. We do this now. Oh no, this is the
Hmm.
PT test now." I have I've told the story about the PT test and way back in the '90s when they wanted to change it, and they asked folks to look at it and give opinions. How I got in trouble for my opinion until they seen and until it was recognized what my background was. And what the issue was is we're getting the right people now in the right spots, like yourself. They are guys that hold the CSCS. They're psychologists. There's people who understand what they're doing, as opposed to having a committee